Welcome to the TriStar Podcast, where martial arts meets family, faith, and personal growth. Join Professor Brummett and Professor Chris Bean as they share stories from the mat, lessons from life, and tools to help you and your family live like black belts on and off the mat. It's time to train the body, sharpen the mind, and strengthen the spirit right here on the TriStar Podcast. Hello, welcome back. You're listening to the TriStar Podcast. Of course, I'm Mr. Brummett, and I'm here today again with Professor Bean. Every day, Mr. Bean, we see kids and adults alike struggling under the weight of procrastination. And it's like a heavy fog, a fog rolling in, right? Making everything that they need to do actually feel harder than I think it should.
And that fog hangs around. And unfortunately, it costs us a lot. It costs us lost time, missed opportunities, and a whole lot of frustration. So if you're listening and you've ever said, I'll do it later, and later turns into never, you're not alone.
Yeah, and hopefully by the end of the episode, you're going to have a clear path, if you will, moving forward to overcome procrastination and build momentum in your life and in your child's life. And we're not just going to, tell you what's wrong with procrastination, but we're going to also give you real tools that are going to work for you.
We'll break down why procrastination happens, how to interrupt it, and how to build a daily routine that promotes productivity without feeling overwhelmed. You won't want to leave. We don't want to leave you confused. We've got your back.
All right. So today, let's take a step into one of the biggest challenges that hits everyone at some point. Obviously, we've already brought it up, but it's procrastination. And I want to say this up front: procrastination just isn't being lazy.
Right. And of course, that's a big one because a lot of good people procrastinate. A lot of disciplined people procrastinate. A lot of kids procrastinate because their brains are still learning how to manage time, how to manage their emotions, their effort, the energy that they have.
Yeah. And so look, if you're a parent listening to this and you're thinking, why won't my kids just, get things done? Why won't they just, do what they're supposed to do? This jumped.
It jumped for me too. I think it's because it can't hear your part. You hit V, you can turn it off. I can work on that on the back end.
Okay. I'm going to start with, so if you're a parent.
Mm-hmm.
So look, if you're a parent listening to this and you're thinking, why won't my kids just, do the thing, do what they're supposed to do? Today is a good podcast for you. And if you're listening for yourself, because you've got projects that are, hanging around in your head, today's going to help you as well.
So let's talk about that fog for a second, because when you're in the fog, you can't see very far. Everything feels heavier. And even the simple tasks feel like they require a huge amount of energy.
Yeah. And look, the longer the fog stays around, the more it actually costs us, not just in time, but in confidence. Because every time we delay, we start telling ourselves this story in our head. I can't do it. I'm behind. I'm not even disciplined.
And then soon enough, that story will become a habit. So today we're not going to just offer some tasks. We're going to offer an identity, right? And this identity is going to be the momentum framework.
Yeah, that's what we call it, the momentum framework. And it's designed to take you really from being stuck or feeling stuck to managing your progress. So no matter how small the steps are at first.
And momentum, I think, is the key word there, because momentum is unreliable. But momentum, once it starts, can carry you, propel you forward.
Yeah, and this framework works because it simplifies a complex problem into, I think, manageable parts, and you can tackle those parts right away. And we're going to go through those 4 different steps as we progress in this podcast.
And as we do, you want to think of one real life situation, something that you've been putting off, or something that your kid has been putting off, because this is going to be one of those episodes where you can actually start to apply the things we're talking about today.
Yeah. So you ready to do step one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Step one is define the task um, as small, and define the task and really make it a small and in specific actions. And this is where most people, I think, fail, because they're trying to tackle some sort of big project all at once, and they really need to kind of chunk it down, if you will.
Right, because otherwise you look at that task and it's a huge mountain, and your brain just says, "Nope, not going to do that." Right? So they scroll, they snack, you clean something, you organize your refrigerator, you do all kinds of other sort of productivity type of things. You're doing stuff, but you're not doing that thing because it's so huge. It's a big mountain you have to tackle, and your brain just says, "Yeah, nope, I'm out."
Yeah, or analysis of paralysis hits, right? So,
yes.
Let's make it practical. Let's say that you or your child has been putting off. Let's use the example of writing an essay. There's an essay due. Child's been putting it off. So instead of writing the essay, the whole essay, break it down into the first small steps, and almost really be silly about it. So what I mean by that is, open up the document and then type out 3 sentences about what you plan to discuss, and maybe that's your intro, and that's it.
And listen, here's why that's so powerful, because you're not trying to finish, you're trying to start. Starting is the win, right? You can't win the race without first starting the race, and this is how you start that process here today.
And I like the freedom that you're speaking about, and what I mean by that is when you say you're not trying to finish, you're actually just trying to start. And I think that gives us, or even the listener, when we procrastinate, it gives us the freedom to go, yeah, I'm not doing this to finish. I mean, I'm doing this. Yes, of course we want to finish, but really, to your point, you can't finish a race until you start it. So I'm doing this to start. And parents, I think this matters, because if you're telling your kid, go home and do your homework, that's a huge thing in their head. But if you say, hey, open it up and do the first problems, maybe the first 2 problems, that is doable. Does that kind of make sense?
It does. And just to sidestep for a little bit here, we do this at TriStar because we have the practice cards, and the practice cards are the instructor's way. We design these to be the way, instead of the instructor saying, go home and practice. Okay, well, it's like, okay, go home and practice what? Like if there's, I have like 18 moves I have to do. The practice cards they get emailed out. Their practice cards are designed in such a way it says practice this many times on this side of your body, and then check the box. And then you do that for the other side of the body, boom, and then that's done. You did your practice, and it's designed to be the practice. If you do those things, then it happens. And again, we have this already pre-programmed into TriStar's, let's say ecosystem, right? And I want to pause here on the homework side of this. Let's pause here for just a second, because there's a few small steps menu, right, for parents. If your kid is stuck, try one of these things, right? You have this, go do your homework, go write this thing, set a timer for 5 minutes and just begin, right? Write the title. Do just the first problem. You're going to go for a run or whatever. Put your shoes on, pack your bag. Just make it the silliest, easiest thing for you to accomplish.
And the reason that's so important, because tiny actions actually reduce emotional resistance. And let me say that again. Tiny actions reduce emotional resistance. And it's back to what you had stated before, that all we're doing is we're trying to start. We're not trying to finish.
Yes.
And procrastination is really often an emotional thing. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's step 1. Step 2 is to make these tasks visible. And also, I think, that's important, along with visible, is also trackable. So once you define that small action, make sure that you can see it, every day until it's done.
Right, because out of sight becomes out of mind, and procrastination loves to have some sort of place to hide.
It does, yeah, and it's not even playing peekaboo. So
agreed.
Yeah. So, anyways, back to the essay example. So you write the 3 sentences. And then you take those sentences and maybe you put them on the refrigerator, or put it on the laptop, or put it on the somewhere that you're going to see it every single day, so that it's visible, and then that you still have it to get it done.
Right. And again, let me reconnect this to what we do at TriStar. Imagine the students has been putting off practicing, let's say, their forms, right? They have that form stripe test coming up, and they're putting off practicing it. Instead of practice everything, break it down. Again, we have those practice cards there. Break it down, practice one move every day until you have that thing done, right? Then you write down a goal somewhere where you'll see it. Maybe it's on the fridge, on the whiteboard, it's on the lock screen of your phone, whatever it is, somewhere where you're going to be able to see that. Listen, my goal is to get that orange stripe. And then that you have to put in the work in order to do that. You make it some very small steps for you to accomplish whatever that goal is.
Yeah, and there's a phrase that's often said is, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Mm. So tracking is super, super important. It matters.
Right, and the tracking can be super simple. A check mark, a sticky note, putting a note on your phone. The point is that you're making that progress visible. I know Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian, one thing that he does is he's got a calendar, and he every day that he writes a bit or a joke, he writes an X in his calendar, and he wants to have a continuous string of no missed days or whatever. And the cool thing is you can go back and look at your calendar. If you do it like that, you can go back and look at your calendar where, okay, look at all these days I accomplished. I missed this one. Right? You can see that. It makes it very visible, and that is very helpful as far as beating procrastination.
Yeah, and that kind of moves us into step 3 out of the step 4 process, is creating an accountability system. So the shifts in procrastination from a private struggle into something that allows you to have some sort of external support. That's what creating some sort of accountability system is. It's so, and if you think about it, we have an accountability system at the studio because we have these checks and balances that go along with it. In order to do your actual belt test, you have to earn a stripe.
Well, and moreover than that, the accountability is like your training partner. When somebody's going to ask you to do the thing or to what? Hey, we're going to be partners tomorrow or next class? Yeah, okay, good. So you're like, that's your accountability. I told John I was going to be his partner next time. I got to make sure I'm there so I can be his partner. Then you show up for it.
Yeah. Okay. And kind of put this back to the essay is, when you tell someone what you're doing or what you're supposed to do, like your parent, and obviously your teacher knows, or a coach, or even a friend, then they can do a quick check-in. So like as a parent with your child, the child with the parent, he could say, hey mom, I wrote the intro today. That would be the check-in.
And parents, this is where you have to be kind of careful, because accountability is different than nagging. It's not nagging. It's not shame. It's support. So instead of, did you do it in an angry tone, maybe you want to try something like, what was your tiny step that you made today?
Yeah. And then that's just supporting the accountability part, right? And you can even make it during family time. You could make it obviously during dinner that we talked about. In fact, you could say to everyone at dinner, hey, everybody share one tiny step that you accomplished today at dinner. And that really actually normalizes, I think, the effort.
It does. So let's move to step number 4 now.
Yeah. So celebrating small wins. Now this might sound silly, but it's actually very powerful.
Especially for kids. I think adults benefit from this as well, but especially for kids, because if progress is acknowledged, then it becomes something that they want to repeat, right? An action that is rewarded is going to be more apt to be repeated. So that's where we're kind of at right now.
Yeah. And so with the, again, the essay, the writing, example is if, let's say you hit your 3 sentences that you had to write, and then, you pause and you celebrate. Like you say, I did it. You mark it on the tracker, that you're trying to track that progress. But you should feel good about that.
Right. And if, again, to relate this back to the martial arts, if you hit a move just right, it felt right, you did it good, then you want to reward yourself for that consistency. Or maybe it's because you practice X number of days in that week. Again, you're going to hit that mark, you're going to do the thing, and then you're going to have that reward because of that consistency. And it's it's not like you're earning a bribe, but because you're reinforcing the identity, I am the type of person who follows through, right? That is the key, right? And it's so much so, I'm going to say it again. You're reinforcing that identity of somebody that is, I am the kind of person who follows through. And that is so important.
And that's the mindset shift. We're not just building a habit where, and we've talked about this in previous podcasts, it's kind of fun that there's so many things that intertwine are woven into all of these podcasts. But you're building an adult. So with your kids, you're not just we're not just trying to get them to do things right or wrong or good or bad or what have you. We're actually building that adult young person. And so let's kind of put all this together. Let's do a fictitious story here. So we have a student named Jake, and Jake is putting off the essay that he's supposed to write, and he's got a time frame that he has to write it in. So all you have to do is introduce Jake to those 4 steps that we talked about. So, hey Jake, let's break it down. Let's do these 3 sentences first. Then he puts the 3 sentences, he completes it. And he tells his mom about it, lets her know, after a week, that he's actually done these tasks that he's supposed to do. Now he gets a reward. Maybe it's 30 minutes on the video game that he wants to be playing, but, he hasn't been able to do it because, that's his reward for doing those things. So you can chunk those things down like we talked about, and then measure it, have an accountability along with it, and then some sort of reward and celebration at the end.
Well, and if you think about this, we talked about this earlier. Sometimes tasks, if they're daunting, if they're big, if they're exciting, if they're unknown, they become this huge, giant, scary thing. But if you chunk it down, if you break it down in such a way that's just, I have to write 3 sentences today. Okay. Or if I have to call Joe today, whatever the thing is, or you just break it down to the smallest things, then it becomes a series of small wins. And those small wins turn into momentum in an extraordinary way.
Yeah. Now, of course, there's the what if I slip up? That's a common objection, right? But here's actually the truth, because perfection isn't the goal. Consistency, progress really is the goal.
Well, and it's hard for me to not do this, so I have to. Perfection, we can't be perfect. Yes. Perfect is not something that humans can be. So if you are consistently striving to be perfect, I have to do this just right, it's got to be perfect, or you're waiting for the perfect time to do, that's never going to be perfect. We are not perfect. We cannot be perfect. We will always fall short of Jesus' glory, that example that he set for us. We can't do that. He did. We can't. So if we strive for perfection in everything or anything, we are unknowingly, you're doing it with the best intentions, but unknowingly you're setting yourself up for failure. So if you miss a day, don't beat yourself up. Just get back on track, and the next day, make that tiny reaction, that tiny action, and remember that resilience is a real skill, and building it like this is, again, tremendous for you.
Yeah, and you talk about that, a slip up isn't failure, it's feedback.
Yes.
And of course it reminds me of Zig Ziglar saying that failure is an event. It's not a person. Yesterday ended last night, and today's a brand new day, and it's yours. And so, it's okay that you mess up. What made yesterday hard? You can ask yourself that question, but what can I adjust and make today even better? Did that kind of make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So let's kind of zoom into a parallel with martial arts. And so we see this with kids, especially during not just throughout the school year, but especially during the summertime. There's a challenge that we all see as kids practicing consistently, because some students, they start out strong, like most of them. Almost every single student starts out strong, and then they lose steam. Well, why is that? And what can we do about that?
Well, okay, so let's do another fictitious story that is parallels exactly some things that we've seen over our time, right? Let's use Sarah for this, right? A young student who first joined the studio. At first, she practiced every single day, a white belt. White belt, everybody is super excited and gung ho and ready to go. Weeks went by, and belts went by, and her enthusiasm to train, to show up to class, to practice like she did, it faded. Her parents started to be frustrated because they couldn't get her to do that same output that she had early on.
Yeah. And so, with that, we just applied what we talked about in this podcast, the momentum framework. So a simple chart on the fridge. Every day after practice, Sarah would put a sticker on that chart, whether it was practice at the studio or the practice that she did at home. And in fact, there was two different stickers. So one would be the sticker from when she would come on, let's say Tuesday, Thursday, and then any other times was the sticker for the days that she wasn't at the studio. Now actually practice becomes visual.
That's right. And then, so moving to the next part is the accountability. Instead of nagging her parents did a weekly check-in. How are you feeling about your practice streak? What's been tough? That changed the conversation from blame to support. And that support is, so much more helpful.
Yeah, and look, what happened is over time, her enthusiasm did return. Discipline became I would say a positive habit, not a daily fight.
Yes.
And, and really, I think here's what separates people who build momentum from people who stay stuck. It's that, consistency and mindset. Let me say that again, consistency and mindset. So consistency obviously means that you're going to stick with the process even when the results are slow. And mindset means that you believe that the progress is going to happen through small steps. It's not going to happen overnight.
Right. And setbacks, like we talked about earlier, setbacks are part of the journey. Expect them to happen. Not everything's going to be a perfect thing. Again, we can't be perfect, so our journey is not going to be perfect. There are going to be all kinds of booby traps and things that we just cannot see, locked doors. It's just how it happens. But those things don't have to derail you. They can teach you. You just have to adjust and pivot on the fly.
Yeah, and look, I wish that I had a consistent mentor when I was a kid over time. Like I had, sixth grade, and eighth grade. I had three of my favorite teachers that I've ever had in my life. Imagine if I had those teachers in a row for 4, 5, 6, 7, even some students that have been with us for 10 years. Imagine learning this with someone that's been with you through a lot of different things. I mean, that's what the consistency of having your child in a program like ours is, that, we get to help mold and shape and share these things with your child. We've had countless meetings with parents and kids to go over this framework with them, to support them through that. It's just invaluable, in my opinion, on what we're able to do as a martial arts teacher based upon the relationship you know what I'm talking about here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the number of times we've had this almost exact conversation with a number of different students over even some different situations. But this framework is the framework that we use. Now we're sharing it so everybody can use it.
Well, and you rightly say that you had a chance to learn how to parent before you were ever a parent. Because one, when you were on the storm team, you were helping out with classes. And then when you became an instructor, you were more responsible with more of the classes. And now as a head instructor of Bradley, you're way more involved in the constructs of what's happening out on the floor. And you've been able to hone your abilities through other children well before you even had your own. And then, stop me if I'm wrong, but then we're able to share those things with parents while they're going through what they're going through. And we've seen it before because a lot of these things are cyclical anyways.
Yeah, I felt like it put me in like this is a weird phrase, but it put me in like a pressure cooker where I got to the end faster than I would have otherwise done it, because I was able to, like you said, I was able to have those sometimes tough talks with kids that are, a few years younger than me. And in my head, I'm thinking, man, how am I supposed to have this talk with this kid? I'm only like, I'm not an adult. I'm not a parent. I don't have kids. How do I? So putting myself in those situations, and the parents that gave me the opportunity to step into those situations, thank you for allowing me to do that. Thank you for the courage,
Trust
this
even.
trust, yeah, that you placed on me to be able to do that. And again, that put me in sort of a pressure cooker, so that now with my own kids, it can be so much better than now with the kids that I have influence over at the school now. Again, so much better, because I put in so many reps from such an early age that it's like, oh, it's a second nature now.
Yes. Yeah. So look, here's your next step, parents. This week, pick one area that you want momentum in. I know it's the middle of summer, but obviously it's not going to be homework, but it could be martial arts practice. It could be chores. It could be, even if it's for yourself, a work project, healthier eating for you or your family. But identify the smallest daily action that has to happen. And remember, it's not about finishing, it's about starting. And then make it visible.
Right. And of course, on that path, find some accountability, a friend, a family member, a coach, someone that you will check in with at least once a week. And remember, you're not striving for perfection, just for consistency.
Yeah. And look, I was going to say, if you as the parent are doing this for yourself, a great accountability person would be your kid.
Yes.
Because they're not going to forget to ask you. This was a few weeks ago, but in New Lenox, there was a little kid, and he had these ninja stickers that he had gotten from school. And he gave one to me. He said, I'm going to give you a blue one because I know your favorite color is blue. Well, the funny thing is probably like 3 weeks before that, in memory, in the tiny little ninja program, in memory, we were doing different memory things, and we were doing name, age, and color. Favorite color. And he still remembers my favorite color. So he gave me a blue ninja. And I said, I have a ninja mask. And he goes, you do? And this was on a Tuesday. I said, I'll bring it in on Thursday. And so I did one of your techniques that you taught me was, and I don't want to say it out loud, but my phone's an iPhone. So I used the hey, part, and said, remind me tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. to pack remind me Thursday morning at 7 a.m. to pack my ninja mask and take it to New Lenox with me. So of course it gave me a reminder. 7 a.m. pops up. I bring it up there, and kid you not, man, this boy walks right through the door. And, as soon as he walks through the door, what does he ask me? Hey, Mr. Brummett, did you bring your ninja mask? So I say all that long story to say, look, one of your accountability partners could actually be your kid, because they're not going to forget.
Absolutely.
So let's bring this together. Today was all about really transforming your mindset to overcome procrastination, and to build momentum. But change actually starts with small, consistent actions. Remember, it's not the perfect moment. It's just getting started. And it doesn't need to be a grand plan. You need just one step.
Right. This week, challenge yourself to implement just one strategy. Maybe it's a timer for some short bursts of focus work. Maybe it's a daily planner. Whatever it is, commit to one action.
Yeah. And I love how you always have, maybe always isn't the right word. Almost 100% of the time, you always have an action plan for them. So I appreciate you doing that.
Yes,
all right,
sir.
Listen, folks, you can find us anywhere that you listen to podcasts. So stay tuned for the next episode, where we're going to talk about the parental influence, how daily actions shape your child's future. So until then, keep pushing forward one step at a time. And thanks for tuning in today.
Thanks for joining the TriStar podcast, where black belts begin at home. Connect with our community by visiting tristarkarate.com. Follow us on social media and share this episode with a family who's ready to grow stronger together. Until next time, stay focused, stay faithful, and keep training like a champion.